Hello and welcome back to Valley News. Now, I'm Adam Shalfu with the man, the myth, the legend, the great outdoors with Doug. And this is Doug.
Yep.
Doug Leier. How are we doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Coach. Because I check out your videos and you can pull it all together and you can go from an outdoors chat to a football chat to a weather chat to a fundraiser, a bike ride chat. So you're putting all the pieces in the right spots for the victory formation at the end of the day. So you're doing a great job.
Well, it's like we talked about last week. You got to be the duck.
Yeah,
you got to be the duck. You got to find whatever medium you're working with, whatever. If you're in the field, if you're in the air, if you're on the water, you got to find a way to be versatile, and that's the duck. The spirit of the duck.
And it really is. In fact, you can have weather like we've had these last couple of days, and it's really feeling more like fishing than it is football.
Sure.
And one of the things we really try to tell people is, take what the defense is giving you.
Oh, absolutely. In the game of life.
It really is. I mean, you can talk about your audibles. And you might be thinking, well, we've got some duck hunting going on right now. We'll be talking more about that into the weekend. But don't be afraid if the sun is shining and it's 80 degrees to go fish. Just because it's September doesn't mean it's got to be, you got to hunt, you got to hunt, you got to hunt. You take what the seasons are given to you, and then you just go out and win. And once in a while, with a Chicago Bears reference, you might throw the perfect pass and some guy might drop it.
Yeah.
And that's not on you.
Well, I think there's a balance there too, because you want to take what the defense in life gives you, but you don't want to be a check down quarterback. Sometimes you got to make the throw. You got to risk it to get the biscuit, but at the same time, you got to recognize what the defense gives you, because sometimes if you're looking for that touchdown and you throw the ball, metaphorically speaking, maybe it's incompletion, maybe it gets picked off, but sometimes you hit the underneath route and things open up for you.
And if you don't throw it deep, you're not going to know. So you got to stretch it. You got to go.
Yeah.
And if you've got plans to go to Devil's Lake duck hunting this weekend, I'm not telling you to scrap it. I'm telling you to go, but I'm telling you to take the fishing pole with you.
Yeah.
Because you get done duck hunting early in the morning, go out on Devil's Lake and do some fishing. And that's just one example.
And that's really smart, because then, if one's not working, the other probably is. It just, it provides some versatility, some options. Maybe you get both.
Right, you do. You do have that opportunity. And I'll be the first to tell you, similar to the Chicago Bears, is that maybe this season for hunting, this September, hasn't been the best for you, but we've been making improvements. You can see it.
Yeah.
We've got some moral victories going on.
Yeah.
We're playing better, and it's going to continue to get better. We're not in control of the weather when it comes to duck hunting, when it comes to goose hunting, but all we can tell you is to get out on the field. And that's the only way you're going to win. You're not going to win standing in the locker room.
Yeah.
You got to get back out there. So that's kind of our message for this fall is really take what the weather is giving you.
Yeah.
It hasn't been exactly like, if people are going to go duck hunting, they're going to want to have some colder weather, some rainier weather, and maybe some clouds and some wind. And we haven't had that. Now our grouse seasons have been open, and it's been much better for grouse hunting, so that's a little bit better of an option. Archery deer season has been open for a while, a little bit warm for that. Folks are still going out there. But this weekend, what's really going to take the spotlight, it's going to be like the game to watch, is going to be the non-resident duck and goose opener.
Yeah, because last week we talked about how the residents, they already got first dibs.
Yeah.
Love that for them.
Yeah.
But now you're you're into conference play.
Right, that's a good way to look at it. This is full season.
Yeah.
This is full season, and really for duck hunters, maybe in Minnesota, this kind of lines up pretty good for them because they had their opener last weekend, and a lot of times what we see is there's a lot of Minnesota duck hunters that want to hunt North Dakota. We're not, you've got more lakes, we got more ducks. That's just the way it is, Minnesota and North Dakota.
That's the way it goes.
That's just the way it is. So the fact that the non-resident opener is this weekend is going to allow those Minnesota hunters to come to North Dakota, and it's Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin. We get just people from all across the nation, literally, that come to North Dakota. And it might not be great weather for duck hunting, but it's going to be a lot better than what you have really about any place else. I mean, we're really the Fort Knox when it comes to duck and goose hunting is North Dakota. So it doesn't matter what the weather is going to be. It's going to be a fun weekend. There's going to be a lot of people out there regardless. The duck numbers themselves, they're okay. We've talked about this for a couple weeks. They're down a little bit from last year. And with the weather that we haven't had, we haven't seen a migration, birds moving in from Canada. They haven't had the colder weather up there. So you're kind of depending on the local ducks, the ones that nested here and the ones that were raised here. And quite honestly, they're out there. It's just not in the mass quantities that people would like to see and expect to see. I've been around the countryside a little bit. I mean, there's ducks out there, but what it tells us is the best is yet to come. So
and we can't forget the goose either.
Yeah.
So what I know it just kind of opened up for local.
Right.
What can everybody expect? How's it kind of been going so far?
Okay, I would guess, because it just, the last couple of weekends have been really good fishing weather. The duck hunters have been out there. We've got areas, you get up into the Devil's Lake region where it was a little bit wetter, a little bit tougher conditions to get around. You can go to some areas in south central North Dakota. It's a little bit drier. I was talking to some friends of mine that were out by Bismarck yesterday, and you're typically not worried about sunburns when you're out duck and goose hunting, but that's what this is doing. I mean,
this year.
It's mosquitoes. It's sunburns, it's mosquitoes, and we haven't had the cold temperatures to kill off the bugs. So it's been an okay start, and I can't tell you that this is going to be the weekend, but it should be pretty good, and that comes down to the amount of effort you're going to put into it. When we talk about scouting, getting out there on Friday night, checking it out, finding where the ducks and the geese are at, finding out where they're not at, and then making your plans for Saturday morning.
Now, as far as how you and why you guys do things, why do you guys make it a week later than residents?
Good question. So this is something that's been going on for about 20 years. And it gets to be really kind of complicated issue of people going, well, what in the world do you make non-residents wait a week before that? On the surface, we're giving the people that live in North Dakota, we're giving them the jump start. You get first crack at it. It's like, you got a restaurant, and you're going to say, hey, if you're a local, you can go first. We love your business for them, but you're going to wait in line. You're going to go in the slow line, whatever. Kind of give the residents a little bit of a thank you. Mm-hmm. And ducks and geese can respond to pressure. And when we get the massive quantities of hunters out there, it can move birds out. And over the course of time, when you allow, and I got to mince my words just a little bit, but for non-residents, if they could hunt in North Dakota without any kind of restrictions, like the license restrictions get down to 14 days and to 7 days, and they put them into zones. And what that does is it tries to spread out the pressure by saying you can hunt here and then over here, but not down here. And we've seen historically in North Dakota, if we would just have no restrictions on non-residents, where you could hunt the full season without any kind of zones from the start of the season, it's a big incentive for them to literally buy up land just to go duck hunting on it.
Okay.
You can go out to places in smaller towns in North Dakota, and you can buy a house for $30,000-$40,000, and you can buy some land. And what it does is it kind of shifts the level of competition in favor of the non-residents. So what we've tried to do, and this isn't just like North Dakota Game and Fish, this is the legislature that has done this over the last 20 years, is to try to maybe even out the playing field a little bit. So we give the residents the first week, the non-residents after that. They open up this Saturday, and some of the other restrictions that come about within that, when you look at the rules and regulations, sometimes it can feel like, looking at your taxes going, whoa, I'm restricted to this zone for 7 days, this zone for 7 days. But that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of what is done and why it's done that way.
Oh, it makes sense. Just sounds fair. So a little endangered species. We talked about this, the whooping crane. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, whooping crane. There's no wrong way to say it.
Okay.
And when you see this video, you'll go, wow, it's a big white bird with black wingtips.
Oh, and these cranes are not named Doug Leier.
No.
There we go.
No, not at all. Not at all. These are fully feathered birds. These are the black wingtips, just not quite my style yet. But there's about 500 of these birds, and they nest in the summertime up in northern Canada, and then in the fall they migrate down to the southern borders of Texas, and it's one of the most endangered birds. And it's really kind of cool to think where we live, these 500 birds are going to be migrating through North Dakota over the next month or so. And this is kind of like an awareness, like, hey, this is happening in our own backyard. But it is also kind of to put the word out that if you see them, you don't have to be a hunter. You can be driving home from football games or to volleyball games or whatever. You can be heading out combining, whatever it might be. If you see a whooping crane, we're going to ask you not to disturb these birds. But if you see them, if you can jot down the location, if there's 3 of them,
Okay.
A lot of times they're going to have some colored leg bands. You can't see them in the video on here. Sometimes you can. But they'll have colored leg bands on there, and if you've got a spotting scope or binoculars, you can jot some of that information down because they're very highly studied and researched, and that helps biologists kind of better understand the habitat that they're using, track some of their migration patterns. So it's kind of we've mentioned this in the past, a citizen scientist. So if you see these birds, probably not as likely in the Red River Valley, although anything is possible. Maybe a little bit more kind of in the western edge of the Red River Valley, heading out to central North Dakota. But we know that we have people traveling all across the state. And just to think there, 500 of these birds left, and they're going to be migrating through North Dakota here in the next month or so is really just kind of cool.
And they are very pretty birds.
They really are. They're, on a video, they do look big, and they stand about 7 feet tall.
Wow.
I mean, so you're talking about
I definitely couldn't tell.
I don't know if you're familiar with Manute Bol.
Yes, of course.
So
And his son, Bol.
Yeah, right.
And you can see some of that banding, too.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, you see the yellow and the blue bands on those legs. Yeah, good eye. Look at you.
Well,
that's why you're the coach.
I have contact lenses. My vision actually, Doug, is horrendous.
You see the field very well.
I'm detail-oriented, but I
Don't doubt the coach. Don't doubt it. I didn't see that. That's why you're the eyes for this team. I didn't see the bands on there. But if you see snow geese, if you see pelicans, there's a lot of different birds that may be white with black wingtips. But the whooping crane are basically like twice the size of those. They're just a humongous bird. Sometimes people will see a flock of pelicans go, oh, white, black wingtips. Might be a whooping crane. They're a lot bigger than that, but if you do see something, say something is kind of the message that we ask for people.
Okay, very good. And then speaking of seeing something, what's hard to see is deer on the road, and that's really a pretty scary thing to happen. I remember back when I was just first starting my career, a good friend of mine, Kurt, was in the sports department with me up in Great Falls, Montana, and sometimes we would have to go all the way up to Missoula for a few assignments and stuff.
Sorry to hear that.
It was a hike, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, man.
But then he would be coming back late at night and multiple times got into an accident involving a deer in one of the station cars. Ooh. Yeah, scary stuff. But, it's the thing is, you're on the road, you're late at night, and you're coming through these areas where they don't know to be looking for you.
Right.
And if you're not looking for them, your life can flash before your eyes. I actually even just saw something recently on the internet about some countries and regions paint the horns, to make it reflective.
Right.
So people driving at night can see if there's some sort of animal on the road, because it happens everywhere, not just North Dakota, not just Montana, but all over the world.
Yeah, and you bring a couple good points there, because statistically this is kind of that time of year. I mean, it can happen in June, it can happen in January, and it can happen in September. There's some variables that come together that are why we put this message out there right now. Is if you look at the sunrise and the sunset times, now they're starting to kind of coincide with a lot of the movement from school, from basketball games, from practices. People are traveling, 6:30, 7:30 at night. So there's a high volume of traffic. And the deer are most active early in the morning, right around sunrise, and then also in the evening, right around sunset. That's when they're most active. And if you've been driving towards the west around sunset, and that blinding sun, so you're blinded by the sun, and the deer are out there. You might not even be able to see the deer, even though they're standing right there. So we have harvest that's going to be happening and coming up. The corn harvest coming off, the sugar beets, that starts moving deer around because they're out in the corn. The harvest takes place. They start moving. So from now, probably till the mid part of October is when if you look at the statistics from the Highway Patrol and from crash accident reports, you see a spike in deer vehicle collisions. So we just try to get the message out there for everyone. Whether you're working, whether you're parents, whether you're kids, is to be aware of the deer movement this time of year. And as you referenced, I mean, this is no joking matter. It can not only result in property damage, so your car gets crashed and it's in the shop and you have to go find a different vehicle to use. You've got insurance and you've got paperwork. It can result in injuries. Unfortunately, at times it can result in death.
Yeah.
And it's not just deer. It can be moose. It can be elk. It can be, in western North Dakota, it can be bighorn sheep. We've actually done some engineering with DOT where we have underpasses that the wild game are using now. So they go
that's brilliant.
under the road. So they have like basically what you'd normally have for like water, like a river, and it kind of funnels the wildlife.
That's
to go.
real smart.
Yeah,
Whoever thought of that idea?
So we're doing whatever we can to try to reduce that. A couple of things, if you talk to like the Highway Patrol, they'll say that the best advice that you can give is to not necessarily swerve. You don't want to swerve into oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
Trying to miss a deer.
Well, especially when you start, I know we're not quite there, but when you get into times a year where the road conditions aren't really good for swerving.
Yeah, that's
you
coming.
really don't want to swerve.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, what they'll suggest you to do is, number one, obviously take your foot off the gas and apply the brake, but not even hitting the ditch, because sometimes you go into the ditch and you can roll. And it's not 100% guarantee, but statistics show that you're actually safer taking your foot off the gas, hitting the brake, and striking the deer.
Really?
You don't want, obviously, you don't want to try to hit it, but you don't want to turn sharp, hit the approach in the shoulper, and end up rolling.
Yeah. You don't want to go into the other lane and hit another car.
Right. That's huge. Yeah. Couple other things is if you see one deer and it crosses the road, well, oftentimes there may be another one.
Yeah.
The does may have fawns with them. They might be traveling in some small groups. If you see one, make sure you're looking to see, are there a couple other ones that are in the corn, that are in the ditch?
Because I've almost, anytime I've seen a deer, it seems like they're with a small crew.
Right. And they're unpredictable. I mean, you can see them, they're standing there, and they'll turn around and go back into the ditch. Or they'll be standing on the ditch, they'll see the lights, and then they'll go and dart across the road. So they're really unpredictable. You can't just think, well, they're off in the ditch, they're not going to come running out onto the road. And we just want to make sure that we get the message out there that, there's some animal behavior that takes place. There's the sunset, the crop work, the farm work that the farmers are doing that all kind of play into right now. And I just think of this, you're going into a Friday, and you got some beautiful weather, and you're going to a football game, or the kids get back from the football game late, or volleyball, and we just want to make sure, sometimes kids aren't the most attentive, and sometimes parents. I'm not just blaming the kids, but it's all of us, is to be, you want to celebrate the victory, but you also want to make sure you get home safe and sound. Yeah. So keep on watching for any kind of critters that are out there.
Well, I also want to say on that, it's never a good idea to be distracted driving, But maybe somebody might take their guard down a little bit because they're cruising through the back roads and they're the only car on the road, and then they might start looking at the Instagram. Don't do it.
Right.
Because you know what? The deer, they don't have stop signs.
Nope.
They don't have red lights. They're going to just, I think I'll walk over here now. And they don't see the car coming. They're not thinking, that's not hardly in their realm of possibility. And then you have a situation where, like you said, it literally can be a matter of life and death. Yeah. And so, if you're hunting, if you're out there, whatever you're doing, going back from a football game that's 2-3 hours away, just keep your eyes on the road and be safe.
There's sometimes people, buy these little contraptions like these deer whistles that you.
Oh, really? Okay.
And from what we've seen and heard, they really don't actually work.
Okay.
If they do, it might be just coincidence. Like you think, the deer ran away. It's because I have the deer whistle on the front of my truck. From what we've heard in research, that they don't actually make a difference. Somebody else is just making money off of a device that says, the deer whistle. Deer will run away from your truck because you've got the deer whistle that the air blows through it and it lets off a sound that scares the deer away. I mean, I've honked my horn and deer don't run away. I've honked my horn and they do run away. I've honked my horn and they run at you. There's no real.
Well, there's sometimes you honk the horn and they just look and they're like,
yeah,
is that Doug Leier?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Hey, Doug. Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a tough situation to
Or
be in.
it's like the kids at the crosswalk. You honk the horn and they look at you, go, "What's your problem, man?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shoot, I remember walking home from finals one time in college, and I had the walk sign, and this car just kept going, but I was going too because I was like, you know what? I've been up for 18 straight hours. If I've had a long day.
Yeah. I mean, you're a big guy,
but I can't stiff arm the car.
My money's on the car.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it to you.
And luckily the car stopped.
Yeah.
But
they knew.
Yeah.
They knew they didn't want to.
Tough.
They didn't want to hit the coach.
Yeah. Doug, always a pleasure. Anything else you want to get into before we let you go here?
I mean, it's a great time of year to get outdoors, and even if you don't hunt, even if you don't fish, just get out there. Go for a walk. Go for a bike ride. Go down to the river. Get out there. Breathe that fresh air. Get some of that free vitamin D. And it's good for the soul.
And
it's
you
good
got to
for the
get
spirit.
it in while you can, man.
Yeah.
You got to get it in while you can.
Yeah, these days that we have, these are kind of like almost bonus days. So
Yeah.
so enjoy them. You can't store them. You can't lock them up and put them in the toolbox. You got to take them out and use them.
Yeah, yeah. Good Grateful Dead song about this time of year. It's the Black Muddy River. You ever hear that one?
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
really just talks about
Wow.
it's kind of this time of year where it's a beautiful time of year, but yeah, it is kind of that transition from the late days of summer into the really pretty days of fall, and then the darkness of winter, and that's the cycle of life.
It is, my friend.
Yeah,
It is,
It's
it
good
is.
stuff. And then it's spring.
Yeah.
And we come back here. Can we do it again?
You better enjoy it.
Yeah.
Spring's just 6 months away.
Crazy.
The
Crazy when you put it like
Twins
that.
will be back on the field middle of February.
Yeah, yeah. The White Sox, they're going to be relegated to the American Association.
Oh, hey, there's a home for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Doug, thanks, my friend.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for tuning in on Valley News.